From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update.
Hi, this is Hannah Mordeau, and this is your News 8 Daily for Monday, April 21st.
Rakuten is the smartest way to save money when you shop because you earn cash back at over 3,500 stores. Fashion, beauty, electronics, home essentials, travel, dining, concert tickets, and more. Your favorite stores like Lowe's, Levi's, and Nike pay Rakuten to send them shoppers, and Rakuten then passes on a part of that payment to its members as cash back. You're already shopping at your favorite stores. Why not save while you're doing it? It's a no-brainer. Membership is free and easy to sign up. Get the Rakuten app now and join the 17 million members who are already saving. Cashback rates change daily. See Rakuten.com for details. That's Rakuten. Your cash back really adds up.
We start with breaking news from the Vatican.
Dear brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow I must announce the death of our Holy Father, Francis.
That's the moment the world learned Pope Francis has died at the age of 88. This is breaking news we've been following all morning on Wish TV. The Vatican says Francis died at 7:35 this morning, Vatican time. That's about 1:35 in the morning, our time. The Pope's death follows a series of health challenges over the years. It also comes just one day after he made a public appearance on Easter Sunday at St. Peter's Basilica for the reading of a blessing he had written. He also met with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, who posted his condolences on social media this morning, saying in part, "May God rest his soul." The Easter Mass was one of the Pope's first high-profile appearances since being released from the hospital after a 5-week hospital stay. Karen Kaifa has a look back at the life of the pontiff.
From the beginning, Pope Francis had the common touch.
Buonasera.
A simple good evening from the newly elected Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio from Argentina, the first pope ever from the Americas. Equally at home with the poor and the powerful. On the lawn of the White House, he made a plea for immigrants.
As the son of an immigrant family, I'm happy to be a guest in this country, which was largely built by such families.
The Pope focused much of his attention to those on the peripheries, as he called it, the outsiders excluded from society.
The hungry, the thirsty, the stranger, the naked, the sick, those in prison.
He was not so popular at times inside the Vatican. Backlash from conservatives upset about his liberal approach to church teaching, promised reforms of financial transparency never fully materializing, and the scandal of sex abuse continuing to be the Catholic Church's biggest struggle.
He met with victims. He expressed heartfelt sorrow. He expressed resolve to get this right. But, most critics, many victims, would say that wasn't matched with a policy follow-through.
When the coronavirus pandemic hit in 2020, this image of the Pope blessing the world from an empty St. Peter's Square became a symbol for that desolate time. Francis urged nations to share their vaccines with poorer countries and vaccinated hundreds of homeless and underprivileged at the Vatican. From the beginning of the war in Ukraine in 2022, Francis was an outspoken advocate for peace. Francis avoided outright condemnation of Vladimir Putin, but publicly appealed to the Russian president, begging him to stop for the love of his people, the Pope said. He made similar appeals for peace during the conflict in the Middle East, saying that the Israel-Hamas war had descended into terrorism. He insisted that war is always a defeat and said self-defense that is not proportional is immoral. Francis's most important message was one of fraternity, that we are all brothers and sisters despite our differences. I'm Karen Kaifa reporting.
As Catholics around the world mourn the death of Pope Francis, the Vatican is preparing for what comes next. First, the Pope's funeral will take place within 1 week. The process of selecting a new pope will then begin when a conclave is convened. That happens between 15 and 20 days after Francis's passing. The conclave can last up to 13 days. The new pontiff will then be installed less than a week after he is elected. Some Catholic churches held morning mass this morning for the first time since the passing of Pope Francis. News 8's Brittany Noble was near Holy Rosary Catholic Church just on the southeast side of downtown this morning.
A second Mass has begun here at Holy Rosary Church. This is the Easter Monday service, and it is still happening right now. I have tried to speak with folks today about the Pope's passing. And just about an hour ago, we did get the first statement from the Archbishop of Indianapolis, Charles Thompson. That statement says in part, Pope Francis had an unwavering passion and devotion to the faith, to the church, and to the people of God everywhere. He was a good and faithful servant, a loyal son of the church. May he rest in eternal peace, gazing on the face of God. We expect to hear much more from church leaders all throughout the day and in the days leading up to Pope Francis's funeral. We will keep you posted here on air and online at wishtv.com. I'm Brittany Noble for Wish TV, wishtv.com. Follow us on Facebook for updates.
Some people going to Mass this morning did have to deal with showers. Storms no longer really impacting central Indiana. We are drying out after that overnight rain, and the skies are going to be partly cloudy this afternoon, mid to upper 60s, so it will be a nice day. Switching gears, at the State House, autism advocates are heading to the State House today to speak out against the Braun administration's proposed cuts to Medicaid. The state plans to place new limits on coverage for ABA therapy. That stands for Applied Behavioral Analysis, which is a common treatment for children with autism. Advocacy groups say that change could delay care because of added regulations. News 8's Tim Spears talked to one of the event's organizers who says this isn't just about money. It's about making sure kids get the care that they need.
What we're trying to do is offer solutions, not just problems. For example, rather than arbitrary limits, we want an increased emphasis on established standards of care and medical necessity reviews that understand how ABA therapy works.
Now to the federal government. For the second time, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth faces allegations of sending military plans using a non-secure app on his personal phone, this time to members of his own family. As Amy Kiley reports, the New York Times was the first to reveal that Hegseth used the Signal messaging app to send that information.
It's truly shocking.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is under fire once again for allegedly discussing military plans on a non-government messaging app. Three sources confirm a group chat on Signal earlier this year included his brother, personal attorney, and spouse. The two men work for the Defense Department, but Hegseth's wife does not. Sources say he used his personal phone for the discussion ahead of strikes on Houthi targets in Yemen. Signal is an encrypted app, but experts say military planning usually takes place in the Situation Room with as few people as possible.
It's putting the operation, those fighter pilots who are in the air about to conduct this operation, at risk with people that don't need to know this information.
The DoD Acting Inspector General is investigating another Signal group chat earlier this year. That also involved the Yemen strikes. A journalist says he was accidentally invited to it along with cabinet members.
No matter what they will spin at this Pentagon, this stuff is classified, no doubt about it.
Experts say allies could be less likely to share intelligence with the U.S. if they're worried about security. They say another concern is espionage.
These types of signal chats, even if they happen in the United States, in the D.C. area, you can bet that the Russians and the Chinese are working very hard to intercept them.
I'm Amy Kiley for Wish TV, wishtv.com. Follow us on Facebook for updates.
U.S. conservative Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito is criticizing others on the court for what he claims was a rushed order to block the Trump administration from deporting more people under an 18th century wartime law. Justice Alito said in his dissent over the weekend that there was dubious factual support for granting the emergency appeal from the ACLU. Alito was joined in his dissent by Justice Clarence Thomas. The 7 justices who voted to block further deportation said that they could proceed only after people were given a reasonable time to argue against their pending removals. The Justice Department says it has confirmed the man that the Trump administration mistakenly deported to El Salvador has been moved out of the notorious Secot prison to another detention facility. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen had first told reporters that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was transferred to a different prison after the two met last week. The latest update from the Justice Department is part of a federal judge's order to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return here to the U.S. Students at Florida State University are preparing to go back to class today while still grappling with the deadly mass shooting on campus late last week. The school says options are open for online and in-person classes today for students and staff. Over the weekend, many students and staff and people in the community gathered in prayer circles around the memorial for the victims on campus. One student says he does not feel safe going back to class.
I don't feel safe right now being on campus. I don't know how we're going to do it, but there's a reason that Florida State is unconquered. We're stronger together. We will always move forward, whatever that looks like.
Police say 2 people died and 6 others were injured on Thursday when a student began shooting on campus using a former service gun that belonged to his stepmother. Investigators say the shooter was wounded by police and is in custody. Now let's get to Jane King with your business headlines. She starts with a major shipping company announcing new shipping rules.
Well, especially if you have pricey packages from DHL, that is where you'll feel the most impact here. So DHL is going to be suspending these global shipments of more than $800 to U.S. customers. Now, the company says the decision is made in response to new customs rules requiring formal entry processing on all shipments worth more than $800, and that new policy does begin today. Levies on tomatoes imported to the U.S. from Mexico will be implemented in July unless a new agreement is reached. The Commerce Department recently ended a pact between the two nations that had been in effect for 3 decades. Now, given that about 70% of tomatoes sold in the U.S. are imported from Mexico, prices are likely to rise. One economist estimates a 10% increase. Well, White House officials are preparing executive orders that would strip some environmental nonprofits of their tax-exempt status. Bloomberg says this could set up a possible Earth Day strike against organizations seen as standing in the way of President Trump's push for more domestic oil, gas, and coal production. It also follows years of scrutiny by congressional Republicans who have accused prominent green groups and other advocacy organizations of having ties to foreign governments and drawing funding from China. Well, Sam's Club is phasing out checkouts. Instead, it will create a friction-free shopping experience, which will include customers just scanning goods on the go with the Sam's Club mobile app and then having an AI scanner verify the goods as the customers leave. The tech would eliminate the need for receipt checks at the door. Well, stocks were mostly lower back on Thursday, especially the Dow. Tariff news will be closely watched this week. In fact, already this morning, China has vowed retaliation against countries that follow U.S. calls to isolate Beijing. So, reminder, we're still in this tariff trade war, and the markets are pointing lower. Both the Dow and the Nasdaq down about 200. Live from the New York Stock Exchange, I'm Jane King.
This has been your News 8 Daily from Wish TV. I'm Hannah Mordeau. Watch us on wishtv.com and follow us on Facebook for updates.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update on demand. For even more, on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.